I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Birds and Bots podcast, episode 8, I'm pretty sure on that. I'm shooting without any computer information around me, so I'm just going to go off my head. I'm here with Mehak Sidhu, and we'll be talking about random stuff as we just kind of talk away. Mehak's studying here at 2UR, her post-bac in human resources, and say hi.
Hello everyone.
Yeah. Not really the best thing to do, especially since we're in a different environment. We just kind of pretend like it's not there. Obviously.
That's what I'm going to pretend.
Yeah.
Just gonna get
just pretend. Just excuse him.
Yeah.
I mean, beneficial. We've already started talking, so we can kind of almost jump back into it. As I was saying, I'm right now writing a paper on the American politics system of checks and balances. You said you studied a little bit, and you said it was too complicated,
Yeah.
which it is. But
yes.
Yeah.
Well, when I really like the fact that here in the West, when a student studies about politics or history, it's so in-depth. Like, you actually go to the core of it, like writing dissertations or papers. Like, you show your real passion in it. It shows. But for me, I have always been interested. That's like me.
Yeah.
Like, history and politics is something like I've always been interested in. World affairs. But then, when I was graduating my bachelor's, I didn't really give it too much thought.
I guess we should tell them you studied political science before you came here to TRU.
I completed after my high school. I just wanted to do politics and history. My parents, because I studied commerce when I was in high school, so it was business, accounting and economics. Not my cup of tea. Like I'm allergic to numbers. I was just like doing it just for the sake of doing it, because my parents were like, try something else, maybe you will like it. It's like, okay, I'll just do it because you want me to do it, but I wasn't enjoying it. So I was just waiting for that moment when I can go to college and I can actually study what I want to study. So without giving it too much thought, I was like, yeah, I'm taking this and this. But for me, like I said, coming here, when I see students comparing to my time when I was in college, I wish I was surrounded by those kind of people, because in my country, getting a bachelor's is like a piece of cake. It's so easy.
I heard it's a pain. Like, that's what Kerry told me when he got his bachelor's in business. It was like way harder than harder.
It's like business, right? So in India, a lot of students are more towards engineering. It's like a typical South Asian household. Like, parents just want you to either become an engineer, a doctor, or a lawyer. Because
it's very transferable skills.
It's like, and you will find that everywhere in the Middle East or like in Asia, basically. Like, parents just want that from their children to just get jobs. And so there's really not much room for people who are into arts, which I'm kind of sad about. Like, it's picking up now in India, because that's something I see myself having a real career in. But that's the thing, parents want you to have a set career, right? And when they think about what are you going to do when you study history and politics, what, like, besides teaching, what else can you do? And I'm like, I don't really know, but I just see myself doing something in it. So it was like a fighting game with my parents, and they just let me do it.
Like, the biggest thing, like, I'm doing an arts degree, obviously, so the biggest thing that I find from it isn't the fact that it's an arts degree, but it teaches you around critical theory and critical thinking and being able to digest and break down and write down and point out good argument sense. Though it doesn't always work perfectly, but
that's not something I really got to
that's what I mean. The schools
in my
you do.
classroom.
Yeah.
Like, when I was doing my bachelor's, because the culture around arts is so negative.
Even
like,
for your teachers, would you say?
The teachers they just kind of have a very nonchalant attitude towards teaching. I mean, they're good, but they also assume automatically in their head, they have this preconceived notion that students are here just because if you don't like studying, you do arts. So they are very laid back and relaxed, but not everybody is like that. So I wanted that, like that kind of an environment where people are like debating and arguing, and there's like critical thinking, which I only saw when I came here. And I was like, I so wish I did my bachelor's here. I would have actually
Maybe falling into
enjoyed
your
it.
niche and
Yeah,
finding like
yeah.
a career right
So
into it.
it was maybe
Yeah.
except for one or two students who were really like passionate about what we
Mm.
were studying in the class, and then we kind of got into that same laid back attitude relating to our studies. So
Yeah.
for me it was, and it's 3 years, so it's not 4 years,
Mm.
bachelor's in India. So I didn't even realize I actually graduated. I have a degree in politics and
It just
history.
happened like that.
It just happened like that. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm graduated.
Did
So,
you minor in anything as well, or did you just 3 years in poli science or
well,
political studies? Do you guys have political studies or political science?
it's the same. It's called political science or
Okay.
political studies, the same
Yeah.
thing. So in that, my first year, I studied about the basis of politics,
Mhm.
like the origin, like ancient Greek,
'Cause, you know,
Greece and Rome, like
India never had its own origins of politics, right?
yeah. So basically, it just
westernized.
touched upon the birth
Yeah.
of politics, and
Yeah.
then the second year was based upon Indian politics,
Mhm.
the Indian independence struggle, everything. And the third was international politics.
Okay.
So, and I got really interested in my last year. I was like,
Mhm.
wow, this is exciting. This is what I had been waiting
Yeah.
for. And then with that, I did sociology.
Mm.
So my other degree was, actually, I don't have a degree in history.
No.
It just goes together.
Yeah.
It's in
Yeah.
political science and sociology.
Cool.
Yeah, so it went hand in hand together. So I enjoyed it. Like I would go home and do my own little research, but that was just me.
Yeah.
I had no audience to like.
Or no
Talk
career
to
path that you could
about
just see
and-
jumping into.
Yeah, and my best friend in India, I only have two friends. My best friends that
Yeah.
call them. And then my other friend, she actually really took it like one step further. She first of all did not study in my city, which is great. My parents would never allow me to like go study in another city in India
Okay.
by myself. So that was the reason it was either coming abroad,
Mhm.
but in India, no way. They wouldn't let me go to New Delhi or anywhere, not safe. But my friend, she actually went to Mumbai.
Mhm.
She went there and she studied, she did a bachelor's in the same political science
Yeah.
and international relations. And then she did a master's in it. And then she went to Israel for an internship.
the
And
friend
now
you're
she's
telling
actually,
about. Yeah, yeah,
she's been researching with people from, like, there was this couple who came from Italy and she went and she lived with the tribal people.
Oh, really? In
this
Italy?
tri-
Tribal people in Italy?
No, the tribal
Oh.
Italian couple, they came to India.
Okay.
And then she was working with them on a research project with tribal
Okay.
people. So
In
she's
India.
actually been like doing it.
Yeah.
And I've always been like so envious, and I'm like, this is it. Like this is what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
But it's okay. I got myself wherever I did.
Yeah.
And there were times when I wanted to give up what I was doing here because I didn't really enjoy it.
Mm.
Like I said, not my
Well,
cup of tea.
it's not, yeah.
Yeah, but then the HR part was kind of interesting because it's to do with people.
Mhm.
You have to deal with them. So I really enjoyed that bit. But anything other than that, like accounting, or,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
was just doing it just for the sake of like clearing it. And there were times when I gave up. I was like, I'm going home. I need to start scratch
Yeah.
in what I want to really do in my life. And my parents were like, no, just finish what you started and then you can come home and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So I do see myself actually having a legit career in politics or
Okay.
sociology. Like,
So you
I
think you will
need
just
to-
get your degree here and then not go and then go back just to do political science?
Like in my few years from now, I will definitely
Mhm.
get back to it. I want to get a master's degree in it. Like
And then there's the
there's
husband
no
and
end
the
to-
family and the house and then
for
it's
now, I
all
want to take a
catched
little
up. Yeah,
break
yeah.
because I feel like I've just been studying.
Mhm.
So I'm excited to graduate and then I take a break for like a year or two, work, travel, and then get my head back into
Yeah.
studying.
Your career path.
Yeah. And I don't want to stop. I just love it. Like I feel like I just want to get as many certifications or
Yeah.
diplomas as, I just want to keep studying till the age of 60.
Yeah, I'm in the
I just
same
want
boat
to
as
keep
you.
doing it.
Yeah.
And there are so many different skills I want to learn,
Mm-hmm.
be it with tourism, languages. That's
Mhm.
my other really big area of interest. Like, I've been big on like learning foreign languages. I've not succeeded in actually getting a
Yeah.
full grasp of like mastering a foreign language, but
I'm sure you
here
picked
and
up
there,
quite a few.
you really have to give it all. Like you have to totally immerse yourself. If you want to
Yeah.
learn a foreign language, you don't have to get into anything else.
Mhm.
It's like fully focused on that one thing, and you have to travel to that country as well. Live there for a bit.
It can work. It can accelerate the speed
Yeah,
of the language.
yeah, and that's what I want to do. But now is not the time. So,
Yeah.
like I said, I have my whole life ahead of me, and I'm gonna do all of that.
I'm sure in HR, are you fluent in French?
I have a diploma in French.
Okay.
It's a beginner's,
Okay.
but I will say it's not very good.
I'm
It
sure
was
if you're
valuable.
interested, once you start working in HR for a couple of years or whatever, if that's your path, I'm
Mm.
sure you could find a way to ask your company to provide you training in French training, because that's a useful human relations skill here in Canada. So it's a way you could do both
I
your
could.
passions all at once.
I could,
Yeah.
yeah. Traveling and
Yeah. We're just
Languaging.
working, whatever companies you work with. I mean, we live in a bilingual country. And when it comes to policy writing and all these things, we need, or HR hiring and all those things, we don't need to have someone who speaks French, but you've already on the path and you already have a little bit of skill. So you can get subsidies to go teach with
Yeah.
professionals, francophones here wherever you are studying or working.
I could.
Yeah.
So basically, the work I want, my dream job would be something that makes me go places, meet people from different cultures, and to be able to use my foreign language.
Yeah. Well,
And then
diplomacy if you want to be in poli science and learning languages. Yeah.
Yeah, so much.
Yeah. It's cool.
So,
Yeah, and it's just conversation. You're killing it so
Okay.
far. We're just talking about it as it's going along. No, you don't have to be forced into like it's supposed to be just normal
Yeah.
conversation. It's not even it's just conversation.
do you speak any foreign languages?
No,
No?
but I'm very into learning new languages. So trying to learn Hebrew, trying to learn a little Mandarin, learned a little French, learned a little Spanish. Can't remember any of it. I can
Any-
read decently enough.
That's the thing. I
but-
have such a strong memory when it comes to learning, like a few phrases here and there.
Yes.
And that's something I actually feel like it's a skill. You know, not a lot of people can remember it instantly, and I
no.
can. But like I said, like, I haven't been able to master it. But there's another very interesting thing. Coming from a country where I speak 3 languages automatically, I have realized in my discovery of like, you know, watching people talk in different languages, there's so many languages, Oriental languages, that
Oh, yeah.
are they have so many words similar to my mother tongue. And that just makes me realize that somewhere language travel
Yeah,
means
yeah.
somewhere people,
Yeah.
you know, traveled from that place and came here. And so it's an evidence, right?
Well, we talked about it last time
We
on
did.
Friday night.
Yes.
That you're talking to me about how the negro
Negra
Negra in Spanish.
and it's Spanish, right?
Yeah.
So somewhere maybe in Spain, the Mediterranean, and you see the Middle East there, and because I find words in Spanish language that are very similar to Arabic language, and that's all obviously because of the Ottomans.
Yeah. And
that had
even the
ruled in
Caliphate
Spain.
was in Spain until the 1800s.
Andalusia. It's
Yeah.
actually in Arabic. It's called Al Andalus.
Yes, yeah,
Right?
Andalus.
So,
yeah.
and if you go to Granada in Spain, you will find mosques,
Yeah.
the architecture,
Well, they
Islamic
covered
style.
the majority of the country.
Yeah,
Just
and
into like the top
food,
southern.
Everything. The food is reminiscent of so many flavors of Mediterranean, you know, Arabic.
Mediterranean and that is for sure.
Yeah, so I somewhere see, because Turkish and Hindi is so similar. I used to watch this Turkish TV drama, TV show, and I didn't watch it for the storyline. For me, what was fascinating was just hearing them talk. And there were so many words that was just same. The phrases were the same. And more not just in Hindi, in my mother tongue Punjabi.
Yeah.
And that just like baffled my mind.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, there is a connection somewhere. So
That's really interesting.
yeah,
I know.
so I would actually, one of my life's desires is to actually go there. And
Do you mean to
I
Turkey
really
or
wanna-
do you want to go to like the original? Because the Turks are from like the steppes, right?
like
Yeah.
all of that entire area, I want to go there and I want to trace everything. And I want to find how close can I get to my own ancestry, because I know we're not from India. And I get told a lot here, people think I don't, like the first instance when people ask me where you're from and I say India, they're like, they don't believe it. And I know that's not true somewhere, but now I consider myself, I'm very proud to be an Indian. But that has what has always fascinated me, to find out where my ancestors came from. I still don't know. It could be from Iran, which
Or I'm sure a mixture as that
it could
time
be,
goes on.
right? But it's something that really fascinates me. So I would want to do that. That's one of my
Well, there's often just that population that is the other, right? The traveling, multicultural mixing. And just for the fact that I'd imagine if you are not from an original place, then your culture was probably always be the other, like throughout your family heritage. I'm sure they've always been like, if there is Iranian mixed in you, you'd never be full Iranian. So those people who were in your family heritage, if they were in Iran, would probably still be seen as others. They'd probably be excluded, so they'd probably be matching up with almost other expats, or at least non-full Iranians, or what would be considered Iranian.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you have such a mixed culture because of that force of being the other. You'd have to mingle with the non-native populations of wherever your heritage is bounced around in.
Yeah, like it was interesting when I first read this book. This very famous author, American author, her name is Jean Sassoon. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's really big in Middle East, and she writes stories on just Middle East women, basically. So there was a story, and
she French, or is she Middle Eastern, who writes about the Middle East?
She's an American. I'd heard
Jean
last
Valjean?
name. Yeah, it sounds very French.
It just sounds French. I mean,
maybe she is.
I don't know.
You never know. Maybe she has French ancestry. So she used to work as a nurse in Saudi Arabia, and from there she actually started on like actually getting stories from women and writing them in her book. And she obviously changed the names because it would be very troublesome for those people who are telling her the story. So I read a story about a Kurdish woman in Kurdistan in the northern Iraq area. And while reading the book, whatever the girl is talking about, like throughout her childhood, what her parents, the different traditions and customs, like they would sleep on the roof of the house during summers because it was hot. And the cloth that they would use they would just like soak it in water, and then they would like put it on.
Just to help cool off a little bit,
And the name of the cloth that she mentions in their language is called melmel.
Melmel?
And I was like, oh my God, I had to call my mom while I was reading the book. I'm like, Mom, come here. See, this is the cloth that she's using to like cool herself. And melmel is exactly what we use in my Punjabi culture to cool ourselves. We also like soak it in water. Do you see that simple act of like that, you know, that action? Kurdish people are doing that, and Punjabi people are also doing that. The cloth is called the same as well. So that was something very interesting, and it's just through my readings and watching, you know, different movies, foreign movies and TV shows, that I actually find out there's so many things, and tradition-wise, you know, language-wise, they're so similar.
I think it's super interesting on that too. I mean, the slowly progression of culture that have just from probably trade, and the fact that Europe doesn't really have that much in comparison to what you're saying, because like Europe trades with themselves, and you can see cultural changes between the British and the French and the Germans and even the Vikings through their pillaging. But like we probably won't have almost any Arabic besides like the pottery that we have been able to get through. We haven't really taken that cultural change, which is really interesting. That in the Kurdistan and northern Iraq, all the way down to the Punjab
you see, and that's why, just looking at the map, I'm always just tracing like, okay, if they travel, this is the route they must have followed, and they're like close, right? It's Iraq.
If you ever look at the Middle East between
India, it's right there. You know, it's all right there. Yeah. So,
and of course they'd be trading along. I mean, the Silk Road is along with those main routes through the mountain ways and all that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's something I have grown big on.
Have you looked much into? I assume that's archaeology in a sense too, the human archaeology of the travel of people walking.
And that's funny because when I was little, there were so many different professions that I wanted to choose, careers that I wanted to have growing up. And obviously I couldn't be all. I wanted to be an archaeologist because that was the first thing I wanted to be. And I was like, 10 years old. I want to be an archaeologist, and then I wanted to be an
engineer, man. Oh man.
So I've kind of been a black sheep in my family in terms of like what my cousins chose to do is what my parents expected me to do. But then I was always fighting with them, like, no, I'm going to do something different. I'm not going to, have a job which I'm not going to enjoy. That's not what and my parents, I blame them for it too, because my mom has a master's in geography. My dad has a master's in history. Of course I'm going to grow up on, like, I'm going to have the same traits, right?
Does not fall far from the tree, right?
Yeah.
My dad is a political scientist as well, so we've always had to kind of talk about that. He enjoyed business too, so he talks about that, but it's not really my interest. And then my mom, she has a different path than me. She's more entrepreneurial, which is more where I get my wanting to do my own things and starting my own projects.
And you're also studying economics too, right?
Yeah, that's just because I enjoy economics a lot.
You do?
But, oh yeah. I enjoy the idea that, I mean, it's similar. I'd like to learn psychology too, but the basis I find in economics that's really interesting is it's usually against what people would think. So like you'd think by buying something you wouldn't want to buy something else, but like there's a lot of your economic decisions come about through processes that you would think are counter to the process. Like you don't think about, you do these things without even thinking about them, but economics tries to understand why people do them through economical reasons. Like, oh, something's gone up $1, so you buy something else that day, and that affects your whole life because you're buying something differently, and it just changes out. It's really interesting to me.
It is interesting. Yeah.
But it's very unhumane in a way than yours, which is you're looking for that human connection and all that. So I find that also interesting that we have that different aspect of it.
And I guess somewhere I have really wanted to have real human connections. And the fact that in today's time and age, you don't find that. You don't find real human connections. And because of that, I was just deep in reading, you know. I couldn't be the person who would pretend to be outside talking to people and just talking because I don't really agree with you. I don't know what you're saying. I don't understand it. I'm not enjoying this conversation, but I want to keep standing because I, want to be surrounded by people. No, for me, that was suffocating. I'd rather go and if I'm not talking to somebody and having an intelligent conversation, I'd rather go to my room, lock myself up and just be surrounded in this like real like imaginary world of mine. Like I would just go back in history and just try thinking about like those people like Cleopatra,
why they do the actions they do,
like,
the lives they lived,
know what they were doing. I related more to those characters than like real people because you can find people who actually can sit and not look at their phone and talk. It's just social media has become, people have become hooked on it.
I'm curious. I don't know. I agree. I agree that communication is a very hard thing. I think it's a prejudge to blame social media. I don't think the peasants of the past were so socially intelligent. Again, the aristocracies probably had maybe better chances, but they probably were in vain and stupid things like clothing us. I think you're right though that conversation is a hard thing to do.
It is.
I'm with you, and then I'd rather have conversations that are far more, hence the podcast, are deeper. We're talking about these interesting things. But even I myself, who am interested in these things, stumble quite a lot in my conversational skills to even express my ideas. And I'm with you on looking into the past and looking to other people.
It's a double-edged sword, social media, right? Like it's good. It's good in the sense we're having this podcast, which is possible through social media, right? But just the obsession, people forget the idea of moderation. They just forget it. Like for me, I almost want to make this a rule with my friends. Again, I can only do this with people I'm like really close to because they will not be offended by this rule. That when we're talking, when we're sitting together, when we're at the dinner table, keep your phones away. I know people are going to keep sitting for a while and not just look at each other's faces and not know what to say, but after a while they will talk. Eventually they will start talking. It's fine. But I want to make that a rule. At least when I go back home and with my own family in future, I will make sure that doesn't happen. You can be doing whatever you want during your day, but when we sit together, your phone should be. And I think it's just etiquettes. You shouldn't look at your phone when you're, like people these days, they just pretend to be busy. If they're sitting with, like say I'm sitting with you, I don't want to talk to you, I'll just look at my phone. I'll pretend to be busy. And even if I'm not pretending to be busy, I'll just get myself busy. Right?
Yeah, and I'm scrolling down walls and looking at photos and maybe commenting and all
the essence of actually sitting there in a pub or like an outdoor environment and actually spending some time talking, catching up. It's all gone. We just ordered food, we were having beer, just looking at our phone and not talking to each other at all, and that we call that a good time? No.
I don't, I know, I'm not even disagreeing with you anyway. I'm just trying to think about the last time I've been in a situation where it's been so overtly that bad. And though maybe I'm lucky, I don't go out as much as some people, just like you. I tried my best not to stick away from boring out gatherings like going down to Sharks. But I mean, like at Duffy's, we just went out on Friday. I guess it's your choice of friends. None of us were really looking at our phones. Sometimes you can't speak all the time. You can't constantly be in a 3-hour conversation at a dinner table, obviously.
You can't.
And catching up there's only so much you can catch up in an extent, especially if you see someone every day. But I agree. I'm just trying to think, when was the last time I've been in a situation where I feel like I've been consumed, where someone else is on their social media so much. I know that, yeah,
Yeah, it's an obsession,
yeah.
and I think it's.
I think I can only talk for my own culture. I feel like there's a push against it in a lot of senses. Well, some people use it. I actually started this podcast off by watching a video on a guy who I really enjoy, who does podcasts, who talked about how we must be careful with social media because it's constantly around us, constantly veering
It
for our
is.
intention, 10 new videos at the bottom.
Yeah.
But the fact that I'm seeing things about how people should be wary of technology is a process of people being aware of it and trying to step against it.
I think that's what we need to teach, at least in today's time, is because see, people like you and me, we come from a time when we didn't have internet or we didn't have phones, right? Like I spent my childhood, I don't know about you, because I
Yeah.
came from I come from the east, right?
Yeah.
So growing up, I didn't have a phone till I was in high school. And
Yeah,
that too,
me
I
too.
only had it because I needed to communicate with my parents coming back from school. And that was with no internet, no nothing. I wasn't on Facebook till I was like after college.
Yeah.
You know, like that I wasn't into it. So I actually feel so privileged that I grew up actually playing outside, you know, having no idea about, you know,
A
any
world
of
without
that.
it, yeah.
But like today's generation, and it's easy for us to like, you know, maintain that kind of a balance when it comes to social media and like real life. But
Well, I spend
the millennials-
hours in front of my screen
You do?
every day. But I'm a vicious reader like you, but I don't read books. I read online.
yeah.
So I'm constantly, I would say most of my life is on my computer, where I'm reading information or digesting forms of.
But like you're channelizing that and
Yeah, that's why I
you're
would say
getting
that you
knowledge
don't.
out of
Yeah,
it.
there's-
It's not
yeah.
like you're like staring in Instagram and checking people's
No.
photos out, right? Like that's
It happens at times, but I'm not really into it.
yeah. But like people
Yeah.
who are like I'm talking about like millennials, they've been born into this environment where they were constantly surrounded by all these
Yeah.
things, right? They grew up on it. So I think the challenge is going to be for them to really figure out how to
live a life without it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm curious again also if we're being the bias of the older generation, making fun of the younger generation. Maybe that is the future. Where I think there are benefits to a social interaction, but maybe if you can emoji better with conversation through a media platform, maybe it's not the problem of the future, and maybe we'll be conservatives by saying you should play with your phone less. I mean, as long as it's keeping you healthy, like the Pokemon Go thing that came out recently, which made people get outside of their houses and go out for long walks and meet people in the community and make friendships through those actions of social media gaming.
But
There
then I-
can be benefits.
I feel like there was a need for technology to do that. Like people couldn't really do that on their own. Like as humans, that's something that is just in us, inherent in us to go out and we're social creatures.
yeah.
We need to go out and just, you know, like at least that's how I am. But we needed to invent like Pokemon Go, great app. But then that is what was needed for people to actually go out and meet people. Like you know, it feels like you've actually reached the apocalypse or something. Like it's
I
not
don't know.
that.
What do you mean by the apocalypse? Sorry, I'm just.
Like you know, like when I think about the apocalypse, like oh, there'll be a future when it's all gonna be
Right.
different, like
Yeah.
so disturbing. It just gives me a disturbing picture in my head.
I mean, isn't that
Like-
every generation as they get older that the future is always a disturbing
I'm
picture?
just basing that upon like movies that I've seen,
Yeah.
like where they kind of
Dystopias.
project like the dystopia and infertility, you know, the plague of infertility.
I don't think we're anywhere near
fall on
that.
people. But I feel like there might be a time when that could become a possibility.
Infertility? I mean,
Why not?
if the world falls apart, sure. But I mean, China just had the first genetically modified baby born yesterday night, actually, and they got GMO'd the baby, like no
That's all
HIV
possible,
low.
yeah.
What happened? First one ever. So I mean, infertility would just be a
But I feel like
scientific
that
method.
will be needed to do because people won't be able to have their own.
Yeah.
So they will have like test tube babies like in the lab and so and you know evolutionary process. With
Yeah.
time the body will kind of
Adapt.
maybe
I mean,
adapt
why
to
do we-
that and
yeah,
not
no.
you know like get rid of that bodily function and just so in that way it's disturbing. Yeah.
I mean,
So-
well, why do we have babies in human bodies though in the future? Why would we need to if we can
Maybe
have
we
a
won't need to.
safer body? Might be safer on we could reduce the risk of child mortality from pregnancy to 0.
Yeah.
So that's thousands of people saved every year.
Yeah.
It's dystopic, and I can see how it's a weird thing to think. I try my best not to be caught up in the the older generation. I don't know how old, but the older people didn't like blacks. Some older people didn't like gays. There's a transphobic issue we're dealing with now. Are we going to be caught up in the idea of what the future wants? Is we're going to be the conservative old people who are like, how dare they have robotic baby breaths?
Well, I don't want to live that long to see any of that. I'm really happy to be an old school person.
I mean, there's definitely. I don't think by the time you wanting to have children, you're going to be
No,
forced.
but it disturbs me that my future generation might be, they're experiencing that.
But it's their own choice of future.
But I hope they can be. Yeah, maybe they will be able to
I don't
adapt
think.
to it.
I think the evolutionary process for women to stop having productive babies through their body would be like millions of years too. Humans don't evolve that fast. Like we're still.
It will be a.
You would never.
Over time.
Way down the line.
No, of
if
course,
it gets to that point.
Yeah.
It is a weird thought, and it is a dystopic. Well, I wouldn't say dystopic. It would just be a very strange technical future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the same thing with weather too, right? We see a shift, and we already had that podcast talk about weather change.
Yeah.
And today I was reading this article that there's this El Nino effect going on right now. So actually, the winters right now, it's gonna be not so harsh in the west part of Canada. And that's why it's not so cold by now. I remember last year it was
snowing. Is it fires
this
burning
time.
a lot? Is it El Nino right now?
Yeah, it's this because of that. So the east part of Canada is actually going to experience really harsh winters this year, as opposed to the west coast. It's going to be mild. And I was just reading that before. I was like,
that's a worry too, though, because El Nino used to last about 5 to 10 years, but it was La Nina within like the last 3 or 4 years, which means that the El Nino La Nina effect are happening faster. And it used because it's over the Pacific Ocean, right, where the water convergence goes back and forth. So that can cause that is a climate change where the El Nino process from 3 to 5 years, which they're now, was a 5 to 10 year process before. So that's a little worrisome. But we don't know what kind of grand effects that can do in the long run.
Yeah, but I'm experiencing, aren't you? Like, don't you feel like it's late this time? I think so.
I feel like I always feel like it's late here in Kamloops. I'm surprised there hasn't been any snowfall yet.
Exactly. Like last year this time it was snowing, right?
Well, it wasn't snowfall yet though. Like, it wasn't like landing. It's always, everyone always thinks it comes early, but it's usually like mid-December, early January for like the snow to be here.
Yeah.
Like, I remember my first year here, which was 5 years ago. I was like, oh, it's still not even snowing. And then I left. Where did I go? I went to PEI on December 24th or something. And then when I came back, the first snowfall of the year, like the big snowfall, was January 4th or 5th. So I don't know. I don't think it's weird yet. If it's not snowing in February, that would be
would be weird. If it doesn't snow at all, that would be weird.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Maybe. Not for like Louis for wanting skiing or Sydney.
Yeah, bad time for skiers.
Yeah.
They won't expect much snowfall. That's exactly what the news article said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though Louis already it's snowing up in the hills already, because I saw Louis post on Instagram, on social media advice, that he was offering people to go on trips across the mountains because he's doing that for fun. So.
Yeah, I'm not on Instagram anymore. I used to. See, I really decluttered my social media life. I try to do that. Like in terms of even like things around me, what I don't need, just
like a minimalism in a sense.
Yeah, keep it less. So except for Facebook, I'm not on any other social media.
No. And I think it's how you use it.
And I've been able to survive without it. Like the thought when I first deleted it,
hopefully.
I was like, oh shit, like I will miss out on all these photographs of my friends and family. And I was like, no, it's been like more than a year now. Nothing really, like, it's fine.
Well, you get to experience it more. You, like we said, you're trying more meditation. So I mean, it's learning to accept the experiences of the now rather than looking at the photos of the then, which is very beneficial too, I think.
Yeah, I have struggled with my own mental issues, like everybody else. And I have learned that...
that's going to be very loud, I'm sure.
I don't know why that keeps coming here. It's probably from the...
I think it's good too. Yeah, I can already see it a little bit. It's okay.
Yeah, so mental issues, really big. Like, you almost meet every person who is going through something. it could be, the severity of it could be different, but it really stresses me out. Like, why? And it's based upon some really small things. Some of the people who, get really, really down, the reason is not so big. But for some people, it's legit. Like, when you hear their stories and you're like, okay, this person is definitely going through a bad time.
Yeah.
But like, it's almost affecting everybody these days.
Yeah.
And I have been a victim to that. I haven't gone really, really bad to the point that I needed to be on medications or anything. But I tried to find my own way out of it. And that was a hard time. It was a hard process. Being away from family is definitely hard when you're going through something like that. But now when I look back at it, I am glad I came out on my own. Because the time when I started feeling that way is exactly the time when I chose to come to Canada. And I thought maybe it's not the right thing, because I'm a very family-oriented person. Having friends and family around me, if I don't have that around me, I get unsettled. I need that support system around me.
Yeah, completely.
And I came here all by myself, and the nearest family I have here, my aunts and uncles, they still live in like Vancouver, which is far from Kamloops. It's not that far, but still far, right? So I was going through a really hard time here, experiencing heartbreaks and, friendships, fallout.
New friendships not really being formed yet, obviously.
And then being isolated. But now I have seen myself grow in the past 3 years.
Yeah.
And now when I look back at all those experiences, I feel blessed. I'm like, it happened for a reason, and I really helped my own depression through those experiences.
Yeah.
I know they were bad, but then sometimes you really need to get all your bad. You can make mistakes, keep making mistakes, keep doing stupid stuff.
Yeah.
Like, how worse can you get, right? In a way that makes me take it all out. Let all the badness get out of you. Keep doing it. And then I think that in a way that helps you to release it, and then there's nothing left. And then you feel this void inside, which is kind of scary, because now you find yourself suddenly all alone. But that isolation is, I think, what is needed. Because during that isolation, you know about yourself.
Yeah, it allows you
figure
to
it out.
become stronger by getting through it.
Yeah.
I'm completely with you. I mean, I've been learning about my own mental health over the last couple of years, and it's been a struggle. Obviously, mine wasn't based around family, or I'm sure it's 1,000 things, right? But yeah, while it's not something I have defeated like you have, I definitely have seen that my ability to deal with it and learn how to tackle the issues and learn to accept as it comes and goes. That I'm glad that I've not taken medications.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you shouldn't take medications, because I think medications can help people in a lot of senses. But I am self-proud of myself that I've been able to find through exercise and meditation and trying my best to just tackle topics one at a time, from loneliness to trying to go say hi to someone, to being crushed by assignments, to just plow away at them and just keep going at it.
And I think that's a very useful remedy to actually go on the right path when you're going through something like that. Is most people, they're scared of being by themselves. That's where they get the panic attacks, the anxiety. When they suddenly find themselves so alone. There's nobody around them. That's the fear that they need to beat. It's okay. It's really okay.
Yeah.
There's so many other things you can do while being alone. I have to force myself to take a book and read it. Read it, write down, go out for a run, Like, it's okay not to have any human, talk for a bit, and just do things. Just thoughts come and go. It just happens. It's natural. Everything falls in its own place on its own. So I have actually grown through all those experiences of mine, and now going back home, I'm so proud to show my parents my new,
skills,
my grown self, and I just can't wait to see them, because they saw me when I was a very weak person. Like, I was so sensitive. I still am.
She knows to
can
react
say no,
differently.
can say no to anybody at all. And that's why people have been, and I did that here in my first 2 years. Never said no. People took advantage of that. And now I have built that thick skin around me. Not too much, because I'm still that old person, you know, I can't change that about, it's in the fiber of my DNA, you know, I can't change that. But learn to say nowhere it's no, you know, you can't like argue with that. Like it is a no.
Yeah.
And I had to go through a lot to actually learn to say that. You know, it's the same thing with like in relationships, you know, you have fallouts. But with every fallout, every heartbreak, I actually got to learn to know what my ideal type is. You know, it brought me closer to the kind of person I actually ultimately want to settle down with. And I appreciate I had those things, because if it was not for them, I wouldn't know what really suits me.
And if you stumbled into a relationship that you were forced to marry, or marry young, or marry without those experiences, you might have been trapped in a harder situation. Or if you had a child with someone before you knew those experiences, you'd be in a harder situation. I agree. I've learned a lot. I'm with you that my past relationships has allowed me to know what I want in myself and what I want in a partner. So that's good.
So that's my own experience with this thing, and I wish people can actually not be scared of you know, being alone and isolated, and actually just take it to their stride. That's what you got to do. When you have very few things around you, you have to make the best out of it.
Some people, I guess it's a mix. I've always been pretty fine with being alone. I guess to me it was always, I moved to Montreal for a summer to go to school there, and I was there for like 3 months, and I was alone, and I was okay with that. But then I didn't have any friends, and I didn't have any situations to make friends, because I was just in a new city without a language barrier, which was a stupid choice of my own. It was pretty English, but I still felt pretty stupid being in a place where I couldn't speak the language fluently. So that stopped me from going out to making friends in certain areas. And I'm glad that you were able to make your friends in that sense, because I chickened out. I went to school there for a little bit, plus there's other issues too, but I didn't want to push myself through that to stay in Montreal and make the hard-turned effort to make friendship and be okay with being alone at first, to eventually making the amazing friends you have here, which took a lot of work.
Yeah, and I'm glad that my friend circle is not too big. I have very few friends around me, but they're the people I'm comfortable sitting around with, right? Like, and that's something I value more than actually feeling the pressure of, like, you know, there's people who want to just have that kind of a popularity around them, even when they're in university. I don't know why they keep doing that. It's a very high schoolish thing. But then for me, I was affected by that again in my beginning. My first, like, that was like a real education for me. Like in terms of like, how is it in high school? You know, this is how it is in high school. I never had a high school like how people usually have in high school.
You mean like a westernized high school?
Even back home, like I studied in an all-girls Catholic convent school from kindergarten till grade 12. I never got to experience prom. I never got to experience, you know, having those first crushes.
Americanized high school, I guess, rather than the
even
British.
in India, like people.
With the British, I assume the British Catholic schools were similar to that
like
too.
I never had those experiences. Like it was all maybe in a way repressed, somewhere suppressed inside of me, because it never really happened. It was like go to school and come back home. And my upbringing has been such that you know, like to this day, I have a hard time trying to swear as well. It's just my upbringing, you know. And the kind of person I am, it's got a lot to do with the schooling I had. I owe it all to them. I don't know if it's good or bad, but it's them.
That's who you are.
Yeah, I still dream about my school at times. I still have those
Is that
dreams
bad
of
dreams?
nuns
Like,
around me, sitting in my old classrooms. Like, I still have that. That's the impact it had on me. And coming here, my first semester was my high school.
New clubs, new people, new prices.
But in a way, I had age on my side, you know? Like, I was 23-year-old, and I had age on my side. So even though I was experiencing everything for the first time, drinking for the first time, I never drank before.
Nice.
Everything, you know? I learned from those experiences. And I still held on to my senses, and now I'm okay.
There's benefits to my last podcast episode that I just released, I think, yesterday. My friend Victoria is a psychology major. She just graduated. And we were talking a lot about in that episode about the I want to say it's the hippocampus slash the frontal lobe cortex, in which girls usually mature, like your frontal cortex, once it's fully developed. For women, it's, I think she said 22 to 23, and men is 24 to 25. And that, once that's fully developed in the brain, you really are a person. I know it sounds, it's a weird phrase, but you are, it helps you think about what you like, what you dislike, your memories, what you remember back to, why those memories are valuable to you. And by coming here at 23, you are in that really good time to really be who you are. You're not really, you might change your opinions as you get older, but you're not really going to be the 15-year-old Mehak turning to the 24-year-old Mehak. You're 25 to 30, you're not going to be much different. You'll be smarter, you'll be more knowledgeable.
It's just going to keep growing.
Exactly.
It's always...
It's just not going to change.
No.
You're going to be just better.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool. And it's lucky that you're here at 23.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I was upset, I was stressed out, I was sad, lonely, wanted to go home so bad, but then I stayed.
Yeah.
I was like, it's okay, it's gonna pass. It's a test. Like, let me just see what worse can happen. Like, even if it is worse than this, I'll learn from it. It will be an experience. And when I have hit rock bottom, the only way is up, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been a
And you've lived away from home
journey.
for like the 2.5 years now, 3.5 years?
I went home.
But you just went home for a little bit, right?
Yeah, just for like a month and a half. And then I came back. My mom came with me, which was really nice because I really wanted her to see, Canada and show her around. And then she came here and dropped me, and I showed her my school. And then she left immediately. And she doesn't want to live in Canada. She loves Canada. She finds it very beautiful, but it's not the country that she wants to live.
Yeah.
I guess we're all very old school in my family. Like, I sometimes feel like I was born in the wrong decade, first of all. I'm very old fashioned. Because even for me, I don't see myself living here for the rest of my life. Like, I want to see the world. I want to go experience, like, still want to go and see every country in the world. But ultimately, I want to come back to my own country, where I was raised. I do. It has its flaws, but I love it. I want to be there. Maybe when I retire.
Being part of, there's a human aspect of wanting to, especially if you have a draw to wanting to make the world a better place, to wanting to find a place that you feel like you can really help the society and community that's around you.
No, I want to go home.
Well, that's what I mean. The community. You want to go home, and you want to be in a society that you know that you want to see your impact on improving it.
Exactly, and come here, learn, and give back to my community what I learned from it, and also for my parents, the sacrifice they made. Like sometimes when I think about, oh my gosh, what they have gone through to like just raise me and my brother, through so much pain and like struggle, and it's my time, and as parents, they want to raise their kids to the best they can so that at some point in their life when they need them, they'll be there for them. Right? And I find it so sad to see, there's kids who don't take care of their parents in their old age. I see that. And I don't want
to... It's a different cultural thing too.
Yeah. Even in India, kids don't take care of their parents, and that's coming from my culture, and I find that so sad because I want to ultimately go and be around my parents. Like I said, I feel settled around my family and my friends, and just the thought of being away from them for the remainder of my life is not something I can even dream about. I have to be,
Do you want to give back to all
give back, and I don't want to lose out on whatever time I have left with them. You know what I mean? Because I know death is inevitable. It's gonna happen. One day I will see my parents not be there anymore. It's harder for them to lose parents to lose their kids before them. That's like the worst thing. But for me, that thought comes to my head because now my parents are growing old. My dad was sick a couple of months ago, and he's still sick. And I saw his pictures, I talked to him, and I ended up crying. My brother had to fly back. It was a stressful time because as kids you see your parents always like the pillar of strength around you, especially a father figure, right? My dad is a big man. He's 6'4", and I've always seen him like a somebody who will always protect me. He never gets sick. We can get sick. Kids can get sick, but they will never get sick, and they'll take care of us. When I saw my dad in that condition, and I was just like, shit, I've never seen my dad weak. And this is just the first of the many other, areas in my life ahead of me where I'm gonna see them
Yeah.
grow old, because that's a natural process.
And
And
so,
I have to be strong because I will get used to it. But for me to be there, give them that, just the strength to see their kids with them, because I know when I go back home now, my dad's gonna be so happy to see me, and that in itself is gonna,
Yeah.
give him that glow on his face, which I don't see right now. He's lost weight. He's like, and I don't like it. I want him to go fat again. I want him to be that way. So and I have to give that back to them. I can't be
Yeah.
selfish in that way. I don't care if I'm not rich, if I'm not married or anything. Like I will dedicate my life just in service to them, and that will make me happy. Seeing
Yeah.
them happy will make me happy. They deserve it, right? So
for all the amount of effort your parents have done into raising you.
they deserve it.
Yeah.
I have to do that much for them. There's no other, second thoughts about it.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
I find it very interesting. Like, I want to be involved in my parents' life and to be able to help them in certain ways, in a different sense, obviously. My parents have helped me go through school, train through this and work all this. And it's ironic, like, while you're paying it back by paying them back, literally, in my mind, since my parents are fiscally sound enough to help themselves in all that area, my goals and my thought process is not about how I help my parents by helping them out. Literally, is to how do I help? I have a niece, and then she's 6 years old right now, and then my grandparents have also helped me get through school and helped me with some financial aid in the way, as well as just being there when I call them and say how you're doing. So in my way, I plan to honor my parents by ensuring that my niece is able to go to school if she ever wishes to, and being there if she needs me, and that by fulfilling the legacy of helping out my family as they continue to age, and then maybe my grandniece, whatever that would be.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where I stand on children just yet until I have a career. I want to be able to know that I'm actually doing something before if I have a child, I would love to do that in a sense where that is in my mind, but until I have a career, the helping of my family, my parents helped me all the way up, and I would like to help my future. So I just think it's interesting how our cultural, well, not even cultural, but just our personal opinions on that, or in a different sense, the same. We care for our parents and we want to praise them by helping them in a way that we feel would be the way they helped us. So it's interesting.
Yeah, and then they had nothing, and then they still managed to make sure we don't go to bed hungry, right? Empty. There's been tough times, and just thinking about that, and that's maybe the reason why I'm so grounded. When I see kids these days, like they're so pampered. I was never pampered. Like I couldn't get pampered, right? Like growing up.
Is pampered like anything from
Like
soccer?
nothing against it. Like I see parents like trying to do, like new parents taking their kids to games and like taking them to swimming classes and all of that. Like I never got that because my parents were just raising us, and that was enough for us, right? Like they tried to give the best they could to both me and my brother in whatever we had. My mom and dad never lived together. My dad was always traveling. He was posted in those dangerous areas, border areas. He could have, threat to life and everything, being in the military. And my mom, she single-handedly raised both me and my brother, and that's something I don't think most mothers have that strength to be able to do that. And I don't think in today's time any mother can have that patience, that resilience to actually be able to do that. So as kids, I had no idea what was happening around me, right? Like I was just completely oblivious. You're a kid, right? You're playing outside and all of that. But now when I look back and I'm like, what pain she went through, what pain my dad went through, because he never got to live with his two kids. We don't have, to this day, like if I sit with my mom and dad, I will rather talk, I'll be more close to my mom sharing things than my dad. We have that silent acknowledgement between me and my father. I know he loves me dearly, I love him dearly, but we don't express it. He's not expressive because he never grew around his children, And so that is something that happened because of the sacrifice they made for the sake of their kids, because my mom wanted a proper schooling for me.
Mhm.
And she chose the school I went to is like the best school in my city, and she was like, I don't want to mess that up. Her education, the environment she grows up in is very important. Because see, as parents, you always want what you didn't get
Yeah.
to
they
fill
definitely-
that in your
definitely.
children, right?
Oh yeah.
So
My
my
parents tell me
mom
that all the time.
couldn't speak English,
Mhm.
right? She never grew up in an English speaking school. She grew up in the village, and then she always had that in her, that inability to not
Yeah.
communicate in English, because it's a matter of it's a very posh thing in India, which I find very stupid. Like
To be
people
able
in
to speak
India,
English.
they take English as a very aristocratic, thing. If you don't speak, you're looked down upon, which is stupid. But it is what it is. And my mom felt that inability in herself, and she made sure my daughter never gets both my kids.
Yeah.
So she was ready to put us in the best school, make us grow up in that environment. So what she lacked in, she made for
Yeah.
that in us. She never got the freedom as a female, and she came from that generation where it's hard. Where I'm talking about North India, right? In Punjabi culture, it's very, very different. It's very conservative. So my mom never had the freedom to actually do things outside, like play as a female, like with guys alongside them, like go out, play in the, in the soccer field or wherever. She made sure I got that.
To play. Sorry.
Like to just
play?
be equal.
Yeah,
as my,
yeah,
she
yeah.
never had any difference between me and my brother, but her mother put that difference between
Yeah.
her and her siblings. She always felt that.
Yeah.
So she's made that all, through her sacrifice. And even now, I think like when I have my kids, I'm gonna make sure what I lack in, I'm gonna make up for that, and I never like let them not have what I didn't have. So that's just the essence of being a parent, I guess. As a parent, you always want that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm trying to imagine where I'm in so my eyes are killing me too at the same time.
Are you crying?
No, my eyes like have something on like the
Oh,
skin.
I thought I was like getting very,
No,
it was getting
no,
very sappy
no. I
inside.
just have stuff in my eyes and it keeps pinching me
I
out.
see.
It's a lovely story though too. It's been nice to listen to.
But you all got choked up. Yeah.
I'm not unlucky. I have no way to respond in the same way because my parents probably gave me everything. Besides being a billionaire, which I don't really care for in any sense, I have no wants, and I have no things that I could look back in my past and say I wish I had a different life. So like I'm trying to imagine how I would raise my kids in the way that I wish they had stuff that I didn't have. That's a hard thing for me to say because there's been moments in my life that have been painful, obviously, but I don't think those are moments that are factors of the society I'm in. Like if I have a daughter, I know she's gonna have the ability to be in the westernized, well, not even westernized, but the growing feminist movement that is here. So while she may have issues and maybe I'll be there as a father to help her in those situations, that it's not like my daughter's being raised in a world where she's not equal in that. And then like, I mean, until I know that I have a secure income, I don't know if I definitely won't be able to afford my parents' lifestyle because my parents they run their own business, so they've done quite well. It's intense. I wonder, it's an interesting thing. I thought about that a lot too, but I haven't thought about it until you stated it like that, so it's interesting.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Like, hearing about.
I guess you want a father involved in your children's life then, since your dad was away, or is that a different thing? Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure they don't lack in that. Because I really wish at times I could grow up,
With your father.
with
right?
my father around me. I mean, he would come only when he was on his holidays.
Yeah.
It's just for a week or two. But then, as kids, we thought like there's a stranger coming home. We don't know who he is, and then we grew up like, oh, that's our dad.
Yeah.
So there's always that. And now it's changed. Growing up, at this time, I talk to my dad freely. I
Yeah.
make up for that. Like when I'm talking on the phone, I talk to him. I know there's that little formality in our conversation, but I don't care. Like, it's okay. I'm not that kid anymore. I understand the reasons why that happened, and it's okay. We can make up for that now. I'm not too old yet, but
Our life is just very different in that sense too. I was homeschooled, so I lived with my parents like all the time. I was raised, they were my teachers in all primary and up. So like I've always had almost an informal relationship with my parents, though not as a friend because as a child I'm still a teenager. I'm becoming more friends with my parents now that I'm older because I'm mature enough as an adult to talk to them.
Yeah.
But it's not like I'm becoming you're in a way breaking down the formal relationship between your parents, and I'm trying to instill a formal relationship with my parents because they treat me more like they've been wanting to be my friend since I was a child, but they didn't. I was a fucking child.
That's
So like it's kind of like you can't be friends with your child because your child is a child, right? But it's played out. My dad's been pretty good at that, and he's a little bit more formal on that. My mom's very open about everything in her life, rather than the conservative. You were curious looking back at your mom's life and
Like my
wondering.
mom's life story is, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, like when she narrates her time,
No,
like this happened, that happened, it was just like, oh my goodness, like
No.
I can't believe women lived at that time
No.
and they were treated that way.
no.
You know, it's just sad. So I want to actually eventually just end that. You know, like now it's not
Well,
happening. My generation,
I hope
it's
you
not
move
gonna
it
happen.
forward, but ending it is.
Like I want to end
Yeah.
that, you know, useless traditions surrounding women in
No.
my community. Like, why?
I agree.
Like the whole-
I agree they should be ended.
The
but, like,
basis of like a woman,
Please
if she
stop.
gets divorced in
Yeah.
my community,
Yeah.
there's the stigma, you
Mhm.
know, of being divorced that is so much stronger
Oh yeah.
than actually feeling relief that the girl is not in an unhealthy relationship anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
she
she
feels,
probably doesn't
and
have
she,
property
and
more
the,
than
that's
that.
the reason why. The reason
Yeah.
she stays in an unhealthy relationship is because she doesn't want to bear the brunt of being called a divorce. Isn't that stupid? So I want to end those taboos surrounding certain
Yeah.
things in women in my community. And I'm very, very blunt and like frank with my female aunt, like relatives
Yeah.
in my community,
Yeah.
like in the village like level. Like if I ever go to my village, because for them I'm a very urban person.
Yeah.
You know, like anytime I go, they're like, oh, you know, they look up to me. The women there look up to me. Can you believe that? They look up to me. They're like, we wish we had the freedom she has
Yeah.
in the same country. And I go there and I tell them like, don't do this, don't do that. Why are you scared of your man? Just go out. Like, you know, like things like that. I'm very blunt and I don't care.
Yeah.
Like I want to bring about that change. They
Well,
all
it is
deserve
a
They
good
deserve it.
fight. I am glad that both women's suffrage and women's rights and women's civil rights have
Because they have the
processed
rights.
here in North America. It's taken a long time, and it's even since the abolition of the slaves in the 1800s, women were asking for more freedoms of rights and divorce issues, and it's taking. I mean, that's 150 years ago. We're still battling for issues in that,
Yeah.
which I'm really glad is a movement that's still in process.
Like if I see sometimes documentaries on African women, you know,
Mhm.
it's crazy.
In a better way,
It's-
I always hear it's a very
Like
different
there's
culture style
so-
too.
It is culture-wise. Actually, I find some of the things very similar with my own culture. Maybe it's just that East versus West kind of thing. Like Eastern, like if you even take Africa and that, there's a lot of things like that.
But
just
it's in a sense the
similar.
arts, because philosophy in the West is in arts, and the arts have led to liberalism, and liberalism is I wouldn't say it's only a Western thought, but the idea of liberalism has allowed feminism to emerge, right?
Yeah. Like patriarchy was also there in the West.
Oh, yeah.
But then the fact that they gave like
But the patriarchy is
It's-
everywhere.
it is, but
technically.
it's so much more prevalent in East even to this day.
Oh yeah, because
You know, it
liberalism
was
can
the
have
same
things.
everywhere.
Yeah.
No, actually, that's really interesting. I'll say something there. In the old times, when patriarchy was its like height in the West and Europe, everywhere, in the East, women had more freedom.
Yeah.
When I read about the Gupta Empire, you know, like the medieval Indian ancient history, women had rights. They were never treated as, I mean, yeah, they were females and they were given that, you know, position that you can be like strong as a man and fight in the army. But when it came to the social status, they were never asked to cover their heads.
Yeah.
They could walk around wearing revealing clothes, and I'm talking about like showing off their midriffs and
Yeah.
everything, and that's the ancient time. If you go in India, you see the cave paintings and the sculptures, you will find like those, you know, women like adorned in those kind of garbs. And it was very strict in Europe. Like women were supposed to be covered, and even when it came to like
Yeah.
the physical
Not-
deformities, wearing the corset.
I'm not sure if it was all of Europe or mostly England and the Victorian.
Victorian. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then women back in India, they had rights. Even
Yeah.
the court sons, you know, they were given the respect as learned people,
Yeah.
people who were highly skilled. They could dance because that was seen as a form of skill.
Yeah.
And after the Islamic invasion, it turned all the way around.
Was it after the Islamic
It was.
invasion itself, though, or is it the collapse of Islam? Because I know I've researched a little bit on. I mean, the golden age of Islam wasn't so bad. A lot of the golden age has a lot of better equality situations, but
not
it wasn't
bad.
until
It
like
was-
after the Mongols
but-
had destroyed the intellectual capitals.
But they did bring about that hegemony of like women to cover up.
Well,
first
was
of all.
that when was that though? Because was that after the Persians
I think
were
it was
broken down,
during
like
it was
the Timurids and the Mughals? Because
not
they're
so much. Mughal period was a very good time
Okay.
till the time Akbar and Shah Jahan ruled.
Yeah.
It was a very glorious time, the golden age of India. India was really rich, and there was room for intellect, and there was religious freedom as well. Like having a Mughal emperor,
yeah. The
he
Mongols
never
were very
imposed
open in
his religion of Islam over anybody else. Like it was his later grandsons who wanted to
that.
spread Islam.
The
everywhere.
last
They
two
wanted
as
to-
well, right? The last two are the worst.
Aurangzeb, yeah, he wanted to forcibly convert everybody to Muslims.
High tax, if not.
Yeah, but that was a good period of time. I think it was before that, the Tughlaq Empire, the Khilji Empire, and they're very foreign names to you probably, but they
I know that
they're very
I know one
harsh
of them.
emperors.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It depends on the period, because I know before the Islam had tried its best for a long time to be not an equal society, but the woman was not looked as a lesser until later on, once it collapsed once.
and then once it collapsed, definitely it was
And conservative values, once an empire collapses, conservative or more ultra conservative values start to come up because you're trying to ensure your society doesn't collapse, which makes sense. I mean, you want to make sure that you have there is benefits to an authoritarian patriarchy in a situation where everything's collapsing, because you want a strong leader to make sure you survive.
it's that.
But getting
very
rid of it's another pain in the
basis
ass
of like
too.
actually believing in an
Yeah.
organized idea, an imagined order.
Yeah.
You know,
And that's a
what
hard
it
thing to even imagine unless there's peace and prosperity in existence. In
like
itself.
even casteism in India, it was an imagined order for people to just, be classified
Yeah.
as, coming from different social strata, and it was done so they could be division in occupation basically, and it was an imagined order, and people believed that they went with it, right?
Well, you've read obviously
The book.
Homo, Yuval's
But I believe
Harari's.
that, like
I agree that the ability to imaginary these ideas, I mean, it
everything
makes
is
sense.
an imagined order. Religion is an imagined
Well,
order.
some things are. I mean, the eagle is a better animal for hunting prey than there is certain hierarchies to an extent. It's both though. I know what you mean. It's weird though. There's the ability of thought to make up these ideas and what's right or what's wrong. So.
Yeah.
Cool. How's it feeling? We've done well. We're about an hour and 20.
Really?
An hour long, I think, right now. Maybe hit for another 10 minutes, and then I'll probably head back out because I'm falling asleep.
Oh gosh.
I woke up really early, and I've just been working on this paper, which is turning into crap right now. But
Really?
well, I don't know. I'm very harsh on myself when it comes to my writing, so which is good and bad.
It is good.
It's
You can
stressful.
you can be your own worst critique,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Perfectionist allows me to want to be better, so it works to an extent. Except it's draining. It's draining.
You understand, it's over.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. So, have you listened to many of the podcasts so far?
I did listen to our previous podcast,
Yeah. Which was okay. I've had a lot of
very,
issues with the hearing it so far.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Having friends around us
Yeah.
and drinking.
I'm glad it went on that way because this whole podcast right now, and this is the second one, where there's no structure. I know how to talk to you. I know
Like,
how
I
to
never
keep
prepared
it
for
rolling.
this.
Exactly, and it
Yeah.
can just be
I
very easy flowing.
I was thinking about it before. I was like, should I be prepped up or anything? But then I was like,
You don't need it.
I'll just go on with my thoughts.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only way you can actually express yourself.
Yeah.
Is when whatever you feel just comes out.
Yeah.
Let it come out.
I should have actually said it before we started. Is there anything you really don't want to talk about? That's something I try my best to, because sometimes I want to avoid things that people don't want to talk about, just because I don't. I mean, right now you don't have to, because it's more like I don't want to bring it up a touchy subject. Say like maybe your brother's dead and you don't want to bring it up, or maybe there's something ridiculous like that. Well, not ridiculous, true feeling, but I don't want to. I don't want to get into an awkward situation that pauses on an awkward situation that you can't get out of. But I can get out of it probably, but it's kind of like, oh, awkward.
No, the hard thing is to actually keep the connection of the different topics going.
Yeah.
Because when you finish a topic and then there's nothing, you know.
Luckily, my ability for
that.
paper writing has allowed me to get very good at structuring from one section to another.
That's good because we touched on so many topics, and if, like, once I stop talking about, say, climate change, for instance, and I wouldn't know what else to say, and that there could be an awkward silence there.
Yeah. We had a little spot like that earlier.
We did.
We had, because I think we had the first major thing, but then I wasn't really. Once I realized that's how you're going to end a thing, I was able to kind of. Okay, so that's where you're going to stop. Let's get ready to. What's the word called? You're even doing it in writing. It's a flow. There it is. You flow, and you have to know when the structure. It's not a problem I'm having with this paper right now. Oh, it's so bad.
What's happening?
Oh, it's just very. I don't know. It's very fluff. You ever done a fluff paper, where you just like. I'm not giving any real examples in my paper, but I'm giving like ideas of examples. So like again, I was talking about in the American Constitution allows for the veto power. And you said it doesn't happen very much in your country, but in America, it's happened 2,500 times since 17. Well, even so, by 1823, it only happened 12 times, and then at a certain period, it boomed really big, and that was an attempt of the executive power or the president power to combat Congress. Because they were trying to use it against, but I don't have any examples of why they did it. So it's just kind of it's an interesting fact to hear. But if I'm not explaining an example or that, I feel like I'm just bullshitting, in a sense. Like it's a fact, but it's not like, but why did they do it? Was it for reasons? Was it good reasons? That was what I was gonna ask. So you've only listened to the one podcast. Do you have any advice for more free-flowing podcasts like this? Or things you'd like to hear or anything like that?
No, actually, I have listened to other podcasts. I remember listening to Kier's podcast.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think I listened to Jackson's podcast as well. Then after that, I was actually busy doing other things. I didn't get a chance to listen to the other ones. But so far, it's good. I like it. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's interesting to see like people's,
just different perspectives.
Everything is different.
And every conversation, as this one is different in its own sense than other ones that I've been through as well.
I don't know where I stand in your podcast, but then everybody is different, right?
No.
So.
Well, it allows for these interesting conversations.
There can't be any comparison. They're all good.
No. Well, I guess that's the end of that. I guess I'll wrap this up. I'll sit around for a minute or two and just say hi, and then hope everyone has a lovely day. I don't know when I'll be uploading this, but have a wonderful evening, everybody, and enjoy the birds and bots.